Hi, it's Bren. We're doing an episode of Things by Bren. Today we have Sarah Bastin. She's done approximately 6 years in the feds. And I say that because the feds and the state is completely different. But this is a prison success story because she used that to better her life. And I physically have spoken with some people that she did time with. And one of them was actually my old roommate. So I have a very good relationship with her. And she said nothing but positive things, that she was an actual influencer while she was in prison and that she admired her and admired what she stood for. So Sarah, welcome. Tell us about you. Tell us.
Hi, Brenda.
Yeah, tell us what's going on in your life. Tell us something positive right now.
Oh gosh, there's so many positive things going on in my life. It's almost overwhelming right now recently. So I have a great job. It's a challenge, but it's a secure, steady job every day. I have risen to the occasion at my job. I just went through a recent training session to learn how to train new associates within my job. I work for Dollar General at the
Mhm.
distribution center in the warehouse in the freezer department. And so for anybody that knows me out there, that's what I did when I was at Victorville. I was the freezer lead for the warehouse there. And so that allowed me to stepstone anyway. So I got a great job. I'm buying my brand new house, buying a new house, closing like probably around Thanksgiving time. So that's
Congratulations. And
thank
she's only
you.
been out a year, and look at all the positive things that are happening. So let's jump back. Talk
Okay.
to us about your life prior to. Talk to us prior to prison.
Oh gosh, prior to prison. So it wasn't just a federal term, Brenda, that I did. I did two state terms too. And it didn't matter how many times I slammed my head on the concrete, I still came up bloody. And just kept forging forward. And so prior to my term, I was on that whirlwind of criminal behavior, dealing methamphetamine out of the Central Valley area in California, back and forth to Nevada. Just, it was never going to run out, right? It was, you know, and so when this case went from state over to federal, that was really the clincher that this was for real. This was for real. The other two times had not been a significant impact.
Mhm.
And so this was for real. I had a mandatory minimum of 10, I had a maximum of 20. Right. So there was the reality right there. And then, of course, like we've all seen that have been there, United States of America versus Sarah Bastin.
That's not fun to see.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's
Hey,
not the state of versus it is the
no,
USA,
right.
and that's the big
Or,
dogs.
county of, no, this was the United States of America. And of course, they had not just, they had all my AKAs and so forth. So at any rate, so that was probably the first eye opener. The sentence guidelines were another big one,
Mhm.
and then the tumultuous lifestyle that you live in, that
Right.
I lived at the time, and just absolute chaos from moment to moment, and never really getting any kind of stability that lasts for any length. And so after some hard time in myself where I really felt like I wanted to show to my federal arraignment. In the end, I didn't. And so I ran from the feds for a year.
Hmm. That's a
And
tough
that
life.
and that only lent to that
Time.
chaos
Hmm.
for sure. And at the time I was married and had been with my husband for a long time. And so we were, I used to call him my best co-defendant and my best codependent.
We're laughing, but it's really not funny. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. So we ran from the feds like that for a year. And that situation got even worse. And of course, especially as everybody realizes that not only do you have a federal warrant, but you have state warrants and so forth. And, they're not any more looking to get into trouble than anybody else with that, because
Right.
that ripple effect gets there. And so we were homeless, and we were on the run, we were homeless. And then I finally was able to locate a household that didn't really care about who I was, because I had methamphetamine.
You
And
had what
that's,
they wanted.
yep. Yep. And so that just lent to even more. And a lot of that story is in my book. And so when you get into those fine details, but that just kind of went on for so much too long. And it finally
Right.
caught up with me. And so when it did finally catch up with me after that year, it really truly was a godsend that happened. That, whatever you're into, God, the divine, the stars that align, stepped in and put a boundary there, because I can't say for sure that I would have been able to
Right.
at
Right.
that time.
So talk to me what it was like. What happened when when they finally found you, when you got arrested?
So I was at that house, and they showed up, of course, guns drawn, every exit, blocked. There was probably 12 people living in this house in Modesto. And I kind of saw him out the window come around. I knew exactly what was going to happen. And so, they took me in. He said he'd been looking for me for 8 months. He said, "You were really good. You definitely disappeared." But he said, "You know why we're here?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I just went with them. And really, about that point, I was
You
so
were done.
tired.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you get arrested, you land in probably a federal holding facility. And
No,
oh, you did?
I had to go to clear up my state case first. And so that's where they took me. And so they took me to the states. The state wasn't interested in my case. They were more interested in the fact that the feds had picked it up. And so once they had that clarification and that guarantee, then they released me. All charges were dismissed. And so I got that blessing, because not a lot of people did get that
Right.
blessing. And
That's
so
true.
when and really, and that's the beauty of the federal system, right? It's called dual prosecution, and everybody gets their turn at the pie. Right?
That's right.
Well, and so anyway, Sacramento came and picked me up, and I went into federal holding, and I went from there. And I was, again, really fortunate that I only stayed in Sacramento, which is one of the worst locations in California, for a very short period of time, to really come to grips with the breaking point of exactly what it
Right.
was that was happening. Exactly what it was that was happening. And really hysterically falling to my knees and saying, "Please help me get through this."
It's a big eye-opening experience.
Yes.
Yes, it is. So you're sitting here, you're fighting your case, you're going to court, you don't know what your sentence is going to be. I want to jump forward with you, because you're just a little bit different than most people that I've interviewed. You actually decided, and you remind me a little bit about myself, that once you were there and you weren't getting out, and maybe not even being sentenced yet, but you just knew you were going to do some time, that you were not going to let this be a waste of your time, that
Exactly.
you were going to try to change. Tell me about that and why.
Um, and like I mentioned previously, I had done time before, and time always changed. The only thing that changed in me was who I was when I returned back to the outside. And that was usually really detached and not happy in any way, which only started that cycle all over again. And so, like you mentioned, I figured, I knew that I had at least a mandatory minimum of 10, and that's a good chunk of time. And
Right.
so, I'm going to do something to change my life. And it was going to be something really simple, and it was going to be a commitment.
Right.
And so, commitment to me had never been real. I had never really committed. I had a baby, and I couldn't commit to being a mother because I was too busy being a drug addict. And I went to college, and I could never commit to one certain thing of any kind. And instead I accrued enormous amount of student loans, right? Which I'll mention later in my story right here. And so on and so forth. So I had never committed to anything. I thought I did, but I didn't. And so I decided that I was going to take commitment. And I started with a little job that they have there. And I kind of went from there and I built from there. And then I decided, well, let's do something even about the way I feel about myself. And I decided that every other time I always stuffed my feelings into food.
Right.
And, because that's great impulsive addict behavior, let me cover it up with this or let me cover it up with that. And so I got involved in fitness, and I was in a dorm room that because I got transferred from Sacramento to another federal holding that was in like on your way to Lake Tahoe in Northern California, and a small facility. And there were other ladies in that same dorm, and we got involved in fitness. And for myself, I watched my calories rigidly. I learned the exercises. I had people send in different information. I read everything I could read. I picked the minds of the free staff that I could, and I made a workout program. And so for myself, I lost 55 pounds.
That's wonderful.
I put a few pounds back on, but
Well, when you get out, things change.
right. But what I did in that dorm room is I changed the dynamic of that dorm room. And we were all feds except for two women. And so we were all facing some pretty stiff consequences, and going back and forth to court and so on and so forth. And so we just motivated each other, and we stayed on that exercise schedule, and it was great. And we worked, and we went to court, and then all of a sudden our journey separated, and we went one way and we went another. Another lady that's mentioned in my book, who also your bunkie knows, was at that location, at that facility with me. And she and I still talk today, and she's super excited about my book and being involved and that time there, and so on and so forth. So we're all.
So tell me about this book.
So my book is called Shedding More Than Just the Weight. It's fitness on the inside. And so the book has the story. It's my story and how I used fitness to channel that most arduous time. Mm-hmm. And not just channel the changes and the overwhelming experience of that time, but also through commitment to myself, to other women that I partnered up with, to allow myself to feel better and digest what was happening. And so, and of course, fitness is a great outlet, right? Because you get mad, you get mad, and who wants to do a bunch of burpees and a bunch of push-ups, but it's a great fitness channel. Anyway, so it's basically that. And then inside with that, my story, it also has lots of super simple exercises that can be done with limited resources: a deck of cards, a towel, a chair, the side of your bunk, a 6x8 space. You can count, or if you have access to a watch, which I know some of us had those, you can follow along that way. It helps you to, gives you the information to just do those simple workouts that can either be done at home, or what my angle is to motivate female inmates into fitness and health while they're incarcerated. And so we're hoping to have the book debuted December 31st. I already have a website. It's fitnessontheinside.com. And so we can do some pre-orderings, a lot of things going on. And so it was hard to kind of try to get everything all done at the same time. But my goal is for every book ordered, I'm going to donate a book back to a facility.
That's great. And now, is this out yet, or it's when is the book going to be out?
December 31st.
Okay. So you have a publisher?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So they can go to that website or go to this publisher. How can they find it?
Fitnessontheinside.com.
Okay. So just
They
go
can
to that
go to the
website.
website. Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
So you get out, you've done this time, you've lost this weight, you've started this book, you've got all these ideas, you've only been out now for about a year, you're buying your first home, you have a great job. Tell us what that feels like.
Oh my gosh, that's so blessings on top of blessings. Things that I never even imagined. Let me start with one of the most important things, Brenda. So through my journey, I started out my journey with no real contact with my family. I have my parents. My parents have my 13-year-old son, who they have had him since he was 5 months old. And so really and truly, he's their son.
Mhm.
And somewhere along the way, of course, I put them in the position to have to choose between, this innocent child and their grown adult child. And so, shame on me. And that's been my attitude all along. Hard pill to swallow
Right.
many times, because in the beginning it was do not contact us and do not call. We'll write, we'll send pictures and so forth. And of course, and you can't blame them because
They're
none
trying
of
to
us,
protect him, right? And
for
you had
sure,
given them no reason to
for
trust
sure.
you or to say that you would be a
Absolutely.
positive influence in his life, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that journey goes along, and still even, and then somewhere towards the end, about the last year or so, I got little snippets and video visits. My sister, and thank God for my sister and my brother-in-law, who have really been the support in my rock through all of it.
It's
Uh,
nice to have that, isn't it?
Yes, yes, so blessed. And so they decided somewhere along the way towards the end that I shouldn't relocate to California. I should come to North Carolina and I should restart my life over. And of course, my parents and my son live close by. And so that's really been amazing to see um, the change in relationship there,
Right.
because what they see today is that my mouth is moving and my body is doing the same thing that my mouth is moving with. You know what I mean?
Your
It's not
actions match your words.
for
Mhm.
sure.
Right.
And
Which is good.
so that's been really the most amazing blessing of it all.
So you would say that prison changed you for the better.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. We have a lot that will say that, but at the same time, their experience there also hardened them in other areas. So, for me, it was a blessing. Did I like being there? No. Did I go through some things? Yes. But it was so much better that I was able to go through what I went through because of the change that it placed in me. And not just a change because I had to, because I wanted to. And that's the key. It's the want.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and my thing in the very beginning is, who do I want to end up on the other side?
Right.
You know,
Which is
and
very important.
and what, um, you know, who am I going to be when my son actually does get to really meet me?
Right.
And so forth. And so that was really the clincher. And people say you do what you do for whoever and you use whatever motivation you use. And I have to say that that probably was the biggest one, because I had no relationship really with him. It was not
Right.
built on anything. And so and I had done state time, California state time before, and that was not fun.
No.
That was less fun than federal time.
Yeah, they're completely different, and each state is different. Here in the state
Yes.
of Kansas, they say that state Kansas time is easier than the Fed time because you can have a TV in your room. There's other things that you could do where you can't necessarily have that in the Feds, but every state is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So it was the fact that I was able to um, not just circulate myself with a lot of other women that were thinking the same way really helped. And then having activities, having the fitness as an outlet and work as an outlet, working for CMS there in Dublin, and tearing up their walkways, and learning to do concrete and using the jackhammer and so forth. Boy, that was good times right there. Standing out there freezing in that Dublin wind, that was good times. So
It was something to do.
I did, and even standing in the line to get Thanksgiving dinner, I mean, sure, it was a pain and what have you, but would I trade those times for anything? Absolutely not.
And you're probably a little bit different than even with me, because I was with my family. We had a close bond and I kind of got uprooted from that, from my actions. But you were on the run already. You weren't associating with your family. So you now were trying to change so you could have your family. I was trying to change so I could be a better mom, so I could be a better wife. So, everybody's reason for change is different. And which is good. Everybody's got their own reasons. The bottom line is that you did it.
Yeah.
You did it. And now you can try to rebuild and repair those relationships.
Yeah. And they're happening, and it is real. It is real. Something that we're super excited about, everybody around here, is we're all going to cut Christmas trees the first week in December
as a family.
And I will be cutting my first Christmas tree, Brenda, to put into my brand new home.
Isn't that awesome?
I never in a thousand years, when they told me that I was eligible, I went, don't they know who I am?
You know what? You are who you are, but you're also not that same person.
No.
And that's what people need to realize. People who have done prison time are still just people. And when they are really wanting to change their lives and they're wanting to be a productive member of society, then they deserve that second chance. Now, if they don't give us a reason to give them that second chance, that's completely different. But when you have people like yourself, people like myself, who really want to not go back and repeat the sins of the past.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, give them that second chance. Let them move on.
You know what I have to say? My blessing started right away too, because when I went for the interview for my current job, my boss who I interviewed with, I said, listen, I know you're going to do a background check, and I'm just going to tell you, I made some poor choices.
Get it out there.
I made some poor choices, and I never say I suffered the consequences, because we didn't suffer the consequences. I always say I experienced the consequences.
That's a good way to put it. Yes.
I experienced the consequences, and I said, but you're going to find that I'm a hard worker and I'm a reliable worker.
Right.
And so he said, well, everybody makes mistakes, and he hired me. And he just recently relocated to another one of our facilities. And I went up to him and I said, hey, I just want to tell you, thank you. I said, you took a gamble on me, had no idea. I said, I'd only been out of prison 3 weeks. And he went, what? And I said, yeah. I said, I'd only been out of prison 3 weeks. I said, I still had an ankle monitor on. And he goes, you are my most prized hire. He said, that is paid back in full. And I went, well, thank you. Gosh, we got a little chicken skin, thinking about that. And I thought, because you have it in you. When you're running the criminal race and of craziness, you have that person in you. You don't know how to cultivate that person.
Exactly.
And so what I really liked from the program the other day was what Terrence was saying. And he said that adversity is a lesson. It's not maybe your lesson. It might be a lesson for someone else that's in the same loop, but you happen to be within that.
Right.
And so there were so many things that happened, not just for me going to prison, but for, and we're not the only ones doing time. It's our family.
Right.
And so
your family does time with you. They really do, regardless of what that relationship is. If it's a bad relationship, they have to hear, oh, did you know? Or I feel so sorry for. And if it's a good relationship, they go through the shame and the embarrassment. I mean, they go through it if it's a bad or good relationship, either way. But they go through some of the same emotions that person that is actually behind bars goes through.
Right.
And they're doing that time with you. And if you
Right.
are involved in their life, you have been taken from them.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
they are doing time without you. My daughter, on one of the, the first Christmases, she just said, I'm really upset, and I said, I'm okay. And she says, but you're not spending it with us.
Yeah.
It's the first time I'd ever been away from them for a family event. And,
Wow.
I did that. My actions caused
Oh,
that pain in their life. And, that's tough. You don't
yeah.
realize that sometimes when you're making those choices.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
and the federal system is that walk of life,
it is.
where we have ladies like yourself that, I had a bunkie who was on pretrial services for the longest time, and then she couldn't understand how all of a sudden they sentenced her and she was in prison, and and her husband was dedicated and every weekend and so on and so forth, and phone calls and what have you. And then there was other women like myself who were thousands of miles from their family, who never had a visit the whole
Right.
time, who,
And I
um,
witnessed some of that. I
you
mean,
know,
I didn't experience it, but I witnessed
right,
it.
so that's why I say my greatest blessing is the reunification
Yes.
with my family. you know
My some of my relationships with my family, although they were already good, they got better because I had to get better and they saw that change in me and that trust and that the love was always there, but that brokenness is being repaired,
right.
and when you see that, it's wonderful.
And I think it's not just the brokenness in the relationship, but it's also the brokenness in each individual,
It
because
is.
I've watched my parents go through some changes within themselves that are really refreshing.
Right.
Um, so
And love
yeah,
does conquer all. It really does.
sure
The
does.
the event
Sure
she's
does.
talking about is she got a glimpse of some of our speakers, and I'll have to make sure Terrence knows this, that that he resonated with you. Was the Becoming the Best You Can Be, Overcoming Challenges
Yeah.
event that we did virtually for free this past weekend, and then we are doing it in person in February.
Woo.
And our goal in this whole conference is to truly see that people can overcome those challenges and become the
Oh,
people that they
yes.
want to be. And yeah, and it's not about money. It's not about
No.
status or where you live or the job you have. It is about you.
Yeah.
It is about you. And that is something that everybody in prison needs to go through. They need to
Yeah.
go through themselves. They need to check their mind and their hearts and see where they need to change. And then they need to reflect on that while they're spending that time away.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So many people lose their lives there too.
They do. They really do. They either become accustomed to it and it
Yes.
becomes their life,
Yes.
or they don't want to be a part of it and they change to get out of it. And that's what I did. I did not want to be a part of that. I did not
Yeah.
want that to be my life. Mhm.
I didn't want that to be my life either anymore. I mean,
Right.
at some point you're done facing or, experiencing those consequences.
Right.
Um, and of course, at that time, I'm 44 years old. I've been on the run from the federal government for a year. I've shaved my head. Um, and
Everything to disappear. Mhm.
and dyed it red and never even left my backyard. You know what
Right.
I mean? Because I never even truly left the area that I was in, that I had been in. And so it was really only a matter of time. And um, gosh, where it's just like, oh my gosh, somebody stop. And yeah, so again, that's why I say that was really the blessing in disguise right there
Yep,
for
that's
me.
awesome.
To be
Well,
able
we'll
to have
bring this to an end. Can you tell people where they can find you at if they want to talk to you and maybe
Well, I'm
visit?
on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, Bastin Sarah on Instagram, at Bastin Sarah on Instagram. Facebook, Sarah Bastin, uh, North Carolina. Fitnessontheinside.com is the website that we've created for my book, Shedding More Than Just the Weight. And we're hoping for debut December 31st. I'm pretty sure we're going to be on target though, because we're just got a couple less little finite details and so forth. So yeah, that's where
So
you can find
what
me.
is your parting words of wisdom for our viewers?
Oh, my parting words of wisdom. Make you the most important thing. Uh, you can't save somebody else's life. You can't fix everything that's going on if you don't make yourself the most important asset, the most important focus.
Can't take care of others if you can't take care of yourself.
I mean, it starts right at home. To thine own self be true.
Right. Well, good
Yeah.
advice. Good advice. Well, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your
Thanks,
time.
Brenda.
Thank you for doing this, and look forward to seeing this on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the above. And if you,
Super.
yeah, if you need some help, contact me. I'll get in touch with Sarah if you can't find her. Always at Brenda Ringwood is all my stuff. And you can also email me, brendaringwood@gmail.com. You can find me at Things by Bren or comechangeyourlife.com. You guys have a wonderful day.